And so now it seems that I would say at this point now more than ever, NFL or any star player in any sport has the ability to move if you have a social media backing, and that's where it's great, but it's scary at the same time because that sets a precedent to what the potential could be down the line. So, I mean, if Aaron Rodgers, obviously, he's very humble, he's very Green Bay, he's accepted him, look, 13 years in, 14 years in as the franchise quarterback, but if he goes on social media one day and say, hey, look, I want these players around me or I'm going to leave, I mean, that's going to be tough from a Packers perspective. I would say Josh Allen, our quarterback, our star QB, not the one that was drafted tonight, the defensive end from Kentucky, but our star quarterback out of Buffalo. I mean, that would be a really interesting dynamic if he says, you know what, one day I'm going to leave and say, I don't want to be here in Buffalo anymore. I think the quarterback position is tough to play at any level, whether it be high school, college, or professional. And it's one of those things where you have to make a decision whether you want to continue to pay him, as we've seen with most recently Russell Wilson, who got paid 4 years, $140 million. And he's coming back now to Seattle. He's going to be, I would say, the franchise quarterback through the end of his career. Ben Roethlisberger got a 2-year, $68 million deal that will basically, extension anyway, that will finish his career out in Pittsburgh. I'm assuming Rodgers will get the same treatment. I would say $30 million plus for the remainder of his career, right?
Well, he got one last year for about $80.
Right.
So that'll do for 4 years, and then we'll see where he's at after that.
Yeah, I mean, the amount that the people pay quarterbacks nowadays, it's just phenomenal.
And it shows at the beginning of this draft, we get another quarterback right at the top.
Which I think
shows how much value
right
put in quarterbacks.
And it's basically you will either build your franchise around a quarterback that is established and proven that can win the big game, or you're going to draft a rookie quarterback and build a phenomenal team around that under a rookie quarterback salary cap that will benefit the team until a couple years down the road where it becomes a little bit more challenging to fix the cap. So we'll take a short break here. So Riley, last topic here. What I typically do on this podcast is just talk about anything that you'd like. So whether it be anything sports related, not sports related, it's really up to you what you want to do. But it's completely up to you. So final topic is coming up here. So again, well, about 30 seconds to a minute. You can either do your research or I'll start. Again, we'll talk about that after the break. But again, we'll figure that out as we go. Spicy Sports the Same on Spreaker. Episode 4, this special podcast NFL Draft on Spreaker Radio. You have the weekend reminder. Here we go.
Yeah.
And welcome to the final topic of Spicy Sports with Sam on Spreaker, Episode 4, a special podcast. Riley Kirkpatrick, guest hosting this podcast. Riley, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast and just making this happen tonight, so appreciate it.
I know, of course, Sam, you walked quite a ways down here to bring all your equipment.
I know, a good 2.5 minutes, I'd say a minute and a half to get to the door and then another minute up the stairs and up to your place. So
bribe someone to get you into the building.
100%.
I didn't let you in.
No, he did not.
He showed up at my door.
Right. And I said, you know what?
With a microphone. And I said, let's fucking do it.
Right. So Riley, do you want me to kick off final topic, or do you want me to kick off?
I kind of got a question for you.
Okay.
So, as a guy who was really big on Ed Oliver, this was a guy I knew I wanted if he fell to 12. The Bills got him at 9. I think it's a great value pick. This guy was huge on my board. You watch his film, he looks amazing. What's your reaction to the Bills picking Ed Oliver?
Stud.
Yeah.
Is the initial reaction.
Thank you.
A stud is the initial reaction that I get because A year ago, not even before the college football season started, he was the number 1 overall pick projected to go at this point. Before the Kyler Murray experience, before apparently Daniel Jones had a field day here, which again, I don't know how. Ed Oliver is a player that, yes, he got injured. Yes, there were issues with him, with his coaches. But his eventual goal was to get to the NFL.
Always.
And for him being the size that he is and playing at the position that he is, and considering we had a player now in Kyle Williams who was our longtime defensive tackle after 15 years, 16 years now retiring, he is the perfect... I would say he's a perfect transition from a Favre to Rodgers-esque perspective at that position.
Yeah.
That's the potential that Ed Oliver has moving forward. I think he's a game changer where he can affect the defensive line. We played the Jets week 1, and I think overall against offensive lines, we need an athletic defensive tackle that can be there on 2nd down, 3rd down, and even on 4th down, on 4th and short. He's going to be the guy. The athletic defensive tackle, 6'2", 290 pounds, probably will play over 300, but a very athletic 300 pounds. I think that potential there, he might be the second best defensive player in the history of the franchise by the time everything's said and done behind Bruce Smith, which, again, there's a lot of things you have to prove to get ahead of Bruce Smith. Again, the leading overall sack leader in the NFL history, again, according to recorded stats. But I think Ed Oliver has that potential. And you draft a defensive player at that position with that much confidence, and the fact that Ed Oliver is already on Bills Mafia and saying, hey, look, I love the guy. I love that. I love, hey, Bills Mafia, I'm here for you. I want to get you guys to the Super Bowl. I want to get you guys to be the best player that I can be. Love that guy. That is a guy that is all about the team.
He's in. He's bought in.
He is.
It didn't take him very long. He's ready to be a Bill. It's got to be exciting.
No, it's exciting, but because it's hard to attract free agents to say, hey, let's leave your current scenario to go up to Western New York, where there's not a lot happening, and you're competing against the Patriots who've been dominant the last 15 years. Let's see what can happen. It's very difficult. The last big free agent signing, obviously, was Mario Williams, who had a 6-year, $100 million contract. Very difficult to get free agents to go to Buffalo. I think that's the difficult part. But overall, I think that there's a lot of potential with Ed Oliver. I think that there is great things to come from there. So no, I think it's a great question when it comes to what we could potentially see, and I'm excited.
All right, there's one more thing I want to talk about,
okay,
and it is in somewhat of relation to your Ed Oliver pick because T.J. Hawkinson was taken at number 8 right before Ed Oliver. First tight end to go from Iowa. And then we also get Noah Fant from Iowa at 20. How big is it for 2 Iowa tight ends to go within the top 20 of this first round? And how will these guys fare in the NFL? Noah Fant and T.J. Hawkinson. T.J. Hawkinson goes to the Lions. Noah Fant goes to the Broncos.
I mean, look, you have 2 tight ends from the same school who I believe Noah Fant was the guy who's like, look, I'm not getting the catches. I'm kind of going to just kind of play my role, not do much to get to the draft. And T.J. Hawkinson was like, look, I'll be the number 1 guy for you.
Which of these guys is going to be a bigger impact in the NFL for their team?
In their first season, Hawkinson, for sure, because he's playing in an air raid offense in Detroit, where's their number 1 receiver in Detroit outside of who? That's the biggest question. He's going to be the what area? No, he's into Philly now.
He's gone.
He's gone. Exactly. So there's no really true number 1 receiver. So there has to be a guy where he can throw to
on the inside,
whether it be 2nd and long, 3rd and long, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal. You got to find a threat that's going to catch the ball, and Hawkinson's that guy. For Noah Fant, Where did he go to again?
He went number 20 to the Broncos.
So for the Broncos, it's perfect. Joe Flacco has relied on tight ends for most of his career. Yes, he wants outside wide receiver help. But yeah, no, he's relied on. He's had tight ends where they were like, look, I'm going to be the guy. And for a team that has a vaunted defense like Denver, it's a great scenario for him to get an offensive threat to say, hey, look, let's get together from day one and be that connection that John Elway and Shannon Sharp were towards the end of their careers. I mean, that's an ideal scenario, right? I mean, obviously they won a pair of Super Bowls, but I mean, that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I think they would be very good and very competitive in that AFC West. Obviously, you have Kansas City, you have the LA Chargers, even the Oakland Raiders could sneak up on you and catch a couple wins there. But I think overall, that's the deepest division. And to get an offensive playmaker,
big playmaker at 20,
like Noah Fant has, I think that's pretty great.
I think that's great value for them at 20. I think both these players are going to make an impact right away in the NFL, and I think for Iowa, that's a huge statement for them as far as college football goes. You know, they show that they have power underneath. They can block for the run. They can catch a pass and hold on to it when they're getting hit. Iowa's obviously been big in the middle, and they're showing it in the NFL right now.
So, that's basically on point. And Riley, thank you so much for that final topic. I really appreciate that as the final topic from that podcast, from that perspective. So here's what I'm going to bring up as the final topic of this special NFL draft, Spicy Sports the Same on Spreaker, episode 4. It's hard to judge players right now. Obviously, we can say, yes, this player is going to be great, or yes, this is a reach. But we're not going to really know until maybe 5 years from now. And what I'm going to use as an example is the 2014 NFL draft, Riley, if you want to pull that up at some point, to really judge how accurate the NFL is at picking players when it comes to affecting their franchise in the best possible way. Obviously, the Houston Texans picked Jadeveon Clowney number 1 overall, the first non-quarterback within the last 12, 13 years that's not going as a non-quarterback. Then you have Greg Robinson from the Rams, who didn't do great. Blake Bortles at number 3. Sammy Watkins to the Bills at number 4.
Should have done better.
You have the Oakland Raiders.
I consider.
Yeah. You have the Oakland Raiders, Khalil Mack, Jake Matthews to the Atlanta Falcons, Mike Evans, who's been an all-pro receiver. You go down to the Vikings, Anthony Barr, Eric Ebron to the Lions, Taylor Lewan, Aaron Donald, Kyle Fuller, Odell. Yeah, can't forget about Odell at number 12 to the Giants. I mean, C.J. Mosley at number 17 to the Baltimore Ravens, who's now in Washington. Green Bay Packers selected Clinton Dix. D. Ford at number 23 to the Kansas City Chiefs. It is difficult, and even at the back end of the first round, DeMarcus Lawrence, who just signed a big contract with the Dallas Cowboys. Derek Carr in the second round. And just kind of scrolling through the draft, who's been a Pro Bowler? Devontae Adams as a value pick in the second round, number 53 to the Packers here. Allen Robinson to the Jaguars. Jarvis Landry, who's now with the Browns, at the back half of the second round. That was a good LSU wide receiver team, but again, considering their offense at that particular time, they weren't a team that was going to be throwing a lot. Yeah, just kind of looking through these picks here, I mean, it's very hard to hit on players that say, hey, look, in the next 5 years, are these players going to produce? I mean, it's impossible. It's challenging. It is. You can do all the research that you want, but it's a couple of factors. Number one, how bad does the player want it? You can draft him at number 1 overall, but I mean, is the player going to want it? Or are they going to have it? Are they going to have that edge? Say, hey, look, I was picked X, Y, Z. I don't care what pick I'm at. I'm all about football. Or are they going to say, hey, look, I'm a first-round pick. I'm going to coast through, at least for now, and then bust out? Because a lot of these first-round picks, as you can kind of scroll back to, I mean, a lot of them didn't really necessarily pan out. I mean, you look at, let's say, Johnny Manziel from the Browns. I mean, that was a pick that I remember watching it here when I first moved to